Okay, time for change. Change to everything and absolutely anything. But with that being said, the most obvious question could be how's this all to begin? And even though this is also to involve the explorative experience that is able to be described as the walk of life, this is, however, the final feature of what has been described as green change. So it's easily to acknowledge that a few notes have been made to explore this mere tip of the iceberg, so to speak. So just sit back, relax, and just listen up to what I have to say. So to give you a brief idea as to who the Buddha was, as the story goes, coming from a royal family, on the night Siddhartha Gautama was conceived, the queen had a dream of a great white elephant entering her room. Months later, the baby child was born while the queen was on her way to her parents. After returning, the king presented the baby child to the royal holy priest, where the holy priest predicted that if Siddhartha Gautama were to remain his whole life in the palace, that he would grow to be a great king. But if Siddhartha Gautama were to leave the palace, he would then become a great spiritual being. So with the king being against the idea of his son becoming a great spiritual leader, he kept the child within the walls of the palace. Yet while the boy was left alone at a ceremony many years later, the young boy became totally absorbed within a state of meditation. In later years, while growing up with everything he ever desired, he came to marry a young princess of a different region. And again, while being married and being able to have anything he wanted, Siddhartha Gautama still did not find himself to be within a state of happiness. So when Siddhartha Gautama saw an old man, he wondered, does everyone become old like this? And when seeing a sick man, he wondered, does everyone become sick like this? And then when seeing a dead body, Siddhartha Gautama wondered, does everyone die? So when meeting a holy man, he was inspired to renounce the materialistic physical life to discover the way out of all suffering. So that evening, before going into a state of homelessness, Siddhartha Gautama watched his wife and child sleeping before his new journey. Siddhartha Gautama then cut off all his hair, removed all his royal garments, and then clothed himself with the humble garments of a holy man. With this coming to the king's acknowledgement, Siddhartha Gautama's father offered him half of his land, but Siddhartha Gautama refuses and decides to join a group of holy men at a meditation center. Yet while learning about the 7 absorption meditations, these holy men would also inflict harm upon the body, which was also called the practice of self-denial, and that through the state of suffering one would also be free from all suffering. And yet after some time and after learning about the 7 absorption meditations, Siddhartha Gautama came to realize that suffering wasn't a way to end suffering, and decided to leave the meditation center to learn a higher state of meditation. Yet after learning about the 8th absorption meditation, Siddhartha Gautama returns to the meditative center to continue his search for total liberation. But through refusing the useless hostilities, through deciding to walk the middle path, all his companions leave him in total disgust. Siddhartha Gautama then comes to receive 5 dreams, with the first dream revealing Siddhartha Gautama's body laying over the whole land from the Himalayan mountains to the Indian Ocean. The second dream revealing a plant germinating from the navel of Siddhartha Gautama and growing into the eternity of the sky. The third dream revealing countless of individuals all dressed in white coming to be seated by his being. The fourth dream revealing all birds of different colors flying to be seated on Siddhartha Gautama's lap, yet when landing they have all come to turn into the color of white. And with the fifth dream revealing Siddhartha Gautama walking on a land covered by pollution, and yet with each step his feet are still pure and clean. He then went and found a fig tree to meditate under, where he promised himself that he would not get up or give up until he discovered enlightenment. So for 49 days Siddhartha Gautama meditated, where it said that his mind became totally pure. And after 6 years since his spiritual journey had begun, Siddhartha Gautama discovered enlightenment, where after 49 days of meditation, Siddhartha Gautama knew the answer of all suffering and knew the answer to end all suffering. So after his enlightenment, the Buddha Gautama went to Deer Park near the holy city of Benares, and there the Buddha shared his new understanding with 5 holy men, who all immediately understood the Buddha's new understandings and became his disciples. And for the next 45 years, the Buddha and the disciples traveled from place to place all over India, spreading the teachings of the Buddha, and where their compassion had no limits, and helped everyone, if they were kings, slaves, or beggars, with each night resting where they were, and when hungry they would request little food, recognizing that wherever the Buddha went, he won the hearts of everyone, and as he always dealt with the innermost feelings, but always advising everyone to never accept his word in blind faith, allowing them to always decide whether his teachings were right or wrong, yet with this always encouraging others to have compassion towards others as well. Okay, so what are the practices of a Buddhist? One being Sila, of which is also based on 2 principles. One being that every living being is seen as equal, whether it's a plant, insect, bird, fish, animal, or individual. The second principle being that it's to treat others as you would want to be treated. 2 being Samadhi, of which is directed towards mental development as with meditation, recognizing that through mental development this is not only the path to wisdom, but it's also through mental development that we are also able to control the mind for meditation. 3 being Prajna, of which is seeking enlightenment through meditation. Now this is when truth comes to reveal itself to the pure and clean mind. Understanding that the 3 basic teachings of the Buddha are the 3 universal truths, the 4 noble truths, and the noble eightfold path. Okay, so what are the 3 universal truths? 1 being that nothing is lost in this universe. 2 is that everything changes in this universe, and 3 is that the law of cause and effect does actually exist, acknowledging that this is the law of karma, most obviously. So if it were to explore the 4 noble truths, it would be acknowledging that 1 is dukkha, of which accepts that life suffering exists, whether it's the suffering of loss, sickness, pain, or failure. 2 being samudaya, which accepts that there is always a cause to this suffering, but which also accepts that suffering is also caused due to emotional attachment, acknowledging that emotional attachment is also the desire to have and control things. 3 being Nirodha, which is accepting that there is an end to all suffering, and that any emotional attachment is able to be emotionally overcome, where the suffering is then to cease to exist, thus acknowledging that it's through nirvana that the mind is free from desire or suffering. 4 being Magga, which is accepting that to end suffering it's to walk the eightfold path, and yet it's also acknowledging that to walk this path one is also to follow the 5 precepts. Okay, so what are the 5 precepts? Well, they are as follows. 1 being don't kill or cause any physical harm. 2 being don't steal or cheat. 3 being don't lie, gossip, or criticize. 4 being don't misuse sex. 5 being don't consume alcohol or any other negative mind-altering substance. But it would also be acknowledging that the Buddha also taught that the eightfold path also consists of the following. Samadhi, which is the right understanding of the 4 noble truths, where through the right view is also true understanding. Sammasankappa, which is the right way of thinking, where aspiration should be the true desire to free oneself from emotional attachment. Samavaka, which is the right way of speech, where the right way of speech is able to free one from lying, gossiping, or criticizing. Samakamanata, the right way of action, thus freeing us from hurtful behaviors, killing, stealing, and careless sex. Samaajiva, the right livelihood, where this frees us from making a living that would be dishonest or hurtful. Samavayama, the right effort, where this is to inspire positive thoughts and to conquer negative thoughts. Samasati, the right mindfulness, where this is becoming emotionally aware of your body, mind, and emotions. Samadhi, the right concentration, where it's to meditate to achieve our highest state of consciousness. Okay, so if I were to briefly explore the traditional meditative practices, it would be to start with Zen meditation to begin with, which is also easily able to be described as peaceful meditation, where it's to focus on breathing as with a backward count of 10 to 1. So when you come to inhale, you are going to count from 10 to 1 backwards. So when it's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. 10, 9, 8. And if I were to get distracted by any noise, I am to stay there. Keep it. Keep it. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now I release. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. And I get distracted. And I keep it. I stay. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, and I release it. Again, very, very peaceful meditative practice that is brilliant for beginners. The next one is easily able to be described as Vipassana meditation, whereby this is also able to be described as insightful meditation. So in this, again, our primary objective is our breathing system. So it would be focusing on inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling. But you must feel your lungs move. You must feel the air entering your lungs and exiting. And if I were to get distracted during this process by a car's noise, as a mere example, I am to keep the car's noise and then to release it, but in releasing it as a sound. So I am labeling the car's noise as a sound. Or if I'm smelling a flower all of a sudden, I am labeling the flower scent as scent. And I keep it and I release it. I never hold on to any of the secondary objectives. My main focus should always be on the primary objective, of which is your breathing system. So, if we were then to move on to what is able to be described as mindfulness meditation, this is coming to a state of being within the now. What you are physically feeling in the now, what you are thinking in the now, and what you are emotionally feeling in the now. But in this, again, the main primary objective is your breathing. So if I were to breathe and release, breathe and release, and if I get distracted physically or by a pain, I label it as a pain once again and I release it. If I come up with a thought in my head, I label it as a thought and I keep it and I release it. I am always releasing. If I'm feeling a sudden emotion of happiness, I keep that emotion and I release it. If I feel a sudden emotion of sadness, I keep that emotion and I release it. Again, brilliant meditative practice. So, the next one is called meditation, of which is also able to be described as compassionate meditation. Recognizing that again, your focus is to be on your breathing. But as your breathing is to deepen, you are to let go and release this focus on your breathing, and you are to start concentrating on something kind, loving, and caring. A feeling that is to be directed towards yourself. So as you come into this state of breathing and exhale, I start thinking of something very kind, very loving, anything like that, anything that would bring me a loving emotion, kindness, anything like that, that is to then be directed towards myself, firstly of all. Then, as you come into this loving state of love within yourself, you are then to direct this onto somebody that you know, somebody very, very good that you know. For instance, your parents, your wife, your husband, your child, whoever. And again, you are now sharing this. You are now constantly sharing this love. Constantly sharing. That is your only focus. Is this love. Whether it's a flower, whether it's anything like that. You are now sharing this. Constantly sharing this. This is your main focus, on sharing this love between you two. Deepening into it, it is to move on to something neutral, somebody a stranger or something like that. So again, now you are an associate, not even a stranger, an associate, so to speak. So now you are now sharing this love with this associate. So now you got this love sharing with yourself, you got this love being shared with somebody that you very well know, and then you got this love being shared with an associate. And then from that, it is to move onto an individual of difficulty, an enemy, so to speak, where now you are now sharing this love with yourself, with somebody that you know, with an associate, and with this enemy. But in this, you are now sharing this equally. So before you can move on from unto somebody else, you must be able to feel this love within yourself. And before you are able to move on to an associate, you should be able to feel this love being shared between you and your loving, positive person, friend, wife, husband, child, whoever it might be. And again, it's a compassion. And as you come to share this with everybody, you are then to move on to a universal sharing, whereby this is to be directed towards everybody, strangers, everybody. And this is the meditation that Buddha came to inspire unto everybody else. Okay, so then it would be to equally understand that the word of chakra in Sanskrit means wheel or cycle, thus acknowledging that the chakra system is that of an energy wheel or that of an energy cycle. But in this, it would also be acknowledging that the chakra system has also been used to assist the meditative process within both emotional beliefs of Hindu as with Buddhism as well. Yet there is a difference within these emotional beliefs, whereby the Hindus have come to place focus on 7 chakra systems, with these 7 chakras being the root, the sacral, the solar plexus, the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown. And again, placing these 7 chakras in the spine. But in regards to the Buddhist belief, they have come to place focus on 5 chakras, whereby these chakras are the root, the sacral, the heart, the throat, and the crown, and placing these chakras in the front of an individual. But it would also be acknowledging that within this day of age, these chakras are also able to be depleted in energy, recognizing that through the state of meditation, we are also able to rejuvenate the energy of these chakras, recognizing that if I were to feel very down and depressed and all of that, just like about life and all of this, it's obviously that there isn't much love in me to just keep on way. So, bringing myself into a state of meditation and focusing on the breathing, and focusing on the breathing as a primary objective. But as this primary objective is to deepen into the state of meditation, I am then to imagine our heart chakra, the color of it, the shape of it. And as I see it in my mind, this is the only thing I'm placing focus on. I am to imagine energy start slowly turning this chakra, to start slowly turning this chakra. It's all I'm doing, and as I get this chakra turning, this energy, I start getting it, trying to place the focus on turning it faster. Till it's going, until it's going. And if I want to move on, then I move on to another. But again, if the focus is on your heart chakra, the next one should always be out. For instance, if it's on the heart chakra, the next step should be the throat chakra. If it is on the root chakra, the next step should be the sacral chakra, and so it should go. Again, the idea is to get all chakras going, and if you are able to get all chakras going within the state of meditation, of which is easily able to be described as the 8th absorption meditation, again, or the 7th absorption meditation, recognizing that the 8th is to explore the kingdom of God. Again, this is to be emotional paradise. So the main focus would be to awaken our state of being into what is able to be described as the Kundalini awakening. And it's through this chakra meditation that we are also able to be explore and experience this Kundalini experience of an awakened being. Okay, so for a basic brief idea of the chakra system, now this will be exploring all 7 chakras, with the first being the root chakra, which is associated with earthly grounding and physical survival. The second being the sacral chakra, which represents desire, pleasure, sexuality and creativity. The third being the solar plexus chakra, which is the seat of your emotional life, with sensitivity, ambition and the ability to achieve being stored here. The fourth being the heart chakra, which is the center of love, compassion and peace. The fifth is the throat chakra, the chakra of communication, creativity and self-expression. The sixth being the third eye, which is concerned with inner vision, intuition and wisdom. The seventh being the crown chakra, which is concerned with information, understanding and acceptance. Now, with this being said, it would be to mention 2 biblical scriptures. The first being from Revelations 1 verse 20, which is as follows: "The mystery of the 7 stars that you saw on my hand, and of the 7 golden lampstands is this: the 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 lampstands are the 7 churches." The second one being this, from Luke 17 verse 21, which is as follows: "Nor will people say, 'Here it is,' or 'There it is,' because the kingdom of God is in your midst." Okay, so then if it's to acknowledge that the 7 chakras are to assist in meditation, it's also then to acknowledge that the 7 absorption meditative practice is that of the chakra meditative practice. By reflecting upon the symbol of the chakra, it's easily to acknowledge that the symbol of the chakra has always been portrayed as that of a lotus flower. So what is the spiritual meaning of a lotus flower? Well, it has been explained as the following. The lotus flower is a symbol of the purity that we are able to discover when we begin to raise our own consciousness and touch upon our own divinity. Just like the lotus flower growing its way through the muddy waters, we too are also growing through our own experiences and limitations until we ourselves discover the happiness found in the enlightened mind. Thus, it's a flower of sacred spirituality that shows us that we are able to overcome even the most difficult experiences to feel the beauty that life can give us. But in this being said, it would also be acknowledging that each chakra has come with a specific color. And with this being said, this specific color is also easily to be noticed within an individual's aura. But with this being said, it's also to acknowledge that these colors are mere spectrums of light that is basically shining through a pyramid, basically a glass pyramid. So when we are seated, you can clearly see that in a cross-legged position, a person is seated in a triangle position pointed up. But in this, it would also be acknowledging that from the shoulder to shoulder pointed downwards to the center of the root chakra, this is also a pyramid facing down, thus symbolic of being as above, so below. Okay, so then it would be to revert back to the Buddha's second dream, which is as follows. The second dream reveals a plant germinating from the navel of Siddhartha Gautama and growing into the eternity of the sky. Now, with this being said, it's also then to acknowledge that the cannabis plant has also been called by the name of Kush. But with it being called by the name of Kush, it's also then to acknowledge that Kush is also associated with the number of 7 in numerology. So what is the spiritual meaning of the number of 7 in numerology? Well, it has been explained as the following. That the number of 7 contains the vibrations of spirituality, deep thinking, emotions, and intuition, where within the number of 7 is the energy of a divine intelligence that we can't see but we feel it to be true. But it's also where it's through the number of 7 an individual is able to explore the deeper realms of life. Now, there are 7 chakras that are able to assist us in meditation, and it has very well been clearly established that cannabis is also to assist in meditation. But with cannabis being mentioned, it's also to mention that cannabis has also grown through a dark state of life, recognizing that this is a reality that has prevented its growth, distribution, and use, recognizing that this is a reality of darkness. So in this, isn't this much more inspiring to think that the cannabis plant is possibly the symbol of the chakra, whereby if it were to reflect upon the cannabis leaf, look at it, and you can clearly see the symbol of as above, so below, if it were to include the stem as the root chakra. Okay, so then it's to acknowledge that Buddhi in Sanskrit means awakening or enlightened, whereby Buddha means awakened one or enlightened one. But then it's also to remember that Christ means anointed one, which also means awakened one or enlightened one. So what is the connection between Jesus and the Hindu belief and the Buddhist belief? Well, it's then to acknowledge that Jesus was also known as the Yogi Isha. And for a brief story to all of this, it goes as the following. Jesus was of course born with his mother being Mary and his earthly father being Joseph. But at the age of 3, holy men from India came to see the child to create a connection with him, as they believed that his destiny would be to live in the land of eternal Dharma until his return to Israel as the messenger of the very mystical power that had given him life. At the age of 12, the young boy petitioned to all the elders for an initiation that only adults partook after careful consideration. And so all the elders questioned the young boy before them, and not only was he able to answer all their questions, but it was the young boy who finally came to question all the elders, something that had never been done before. So upon his return to Nazareth, preparation started for his travels to India, as all the elders stated that they had no lessons to teach to the young boy, and at the mature age of 13 he left for India. So for the next few years, the Himalayas became the home for Jesus, and during all these years he meditated in a cave in the north of India. But during this time Jesus also came to attain perfect inner wisdom. He then went to live in Benares, a holy city which is dedicated to the worship of Shiva. So with Jesus practicing yoga in the Himalayas, he then came to be a learner in spiritual philosophy in the holy city of Benares. Time came to pass and he traveled to the holy city of Puri, of which was another city that had centered itself around Shiva. However, here he adopted monastic life, where he perfected the synthesis of yoga, philosophy, renunciation, and eventually started teaching. As a teacher, Jesus became very well known for his teaching abilities, but insisted that all should be taught the meaning of all the spiritual scriptures, and because of this, also started teaching the poor as equals, yet also teaching the lessons that all were able to attain spiritual perfection without the aid of external teachings from ritualized religions. However, it was also due to this that angered many other spiritual teachers, and they started plotting his assassination. Becoming aware of this, he returned to the Himalayas, where he then spent most of his time meditating in different various Buddhist monasteries before returning to Israel. Excuse me there, but the story still does not end there. Okay, so in mentioning the walk of life, now this is to be a 420-kilometer journey that is to be entirely walked, where it's to discover the meaning of life as well to inspire the meaning of life as well. But if we were to explore what is the meaning of life on a logical basis, now this is without intelligence trying to defeat logic, which is only able to be described as moronic or idiotic. So if we were to explore what is the meaning of life on a logical basis, well, it could be the state of peace, it could be the state of love, or it could be the state of truth. But without truth, peace and love would simply not exist. So if it were to be the state of truth, it's then also knowing that many of us have also come to seek truth within this life. But it's also then knowing that there have been many reasons that have given us a reason to seek truth within this life. But with this being said, if there are many reasons that have given us a reason to seek truth within this life, there is also a clear indication that there have been many that have not been truthful with us, recognizing that they have not been truthful with themselves. So if we were to acknowledge what is to be recognized as truthful within others, is also then acknowledging that the truth that we come to find within others is the truth that we come to find within ourselves. So if we were to accept this, it's also then coming to accept the value of happiness that is able to be discovered not within ourselves but also within others. Recognizing that if we were to acknowledge the words of Christopher McCandless, which states that happiness is at its best when it's shared, this is a clear indication of the state of oneness. So if that is to be acknowledged, let the lovers keep on loving and the haters keep on hating. And if we were to compassionately donate towards this positive notion of happiness and oneness, email and the banking details will be forwarded to Namaste.